It's the morning of February 18th, 2001. A man in a dark overcoat walks across a wooden footbridge in Foxstone Park, Virginia. He leaves a sealed garbage bag beneath the bridge and turns back toward the parking lot. A dead drop, a walk he has made for 22 years. 300 FBI agents watch from the trees, from unmarked vans, from a helicopter at altitude. They have been waiting for months. The man walking back toward his car is the Bureau's own counterintelligence expert. He teaches agents how to spot moles. He wrote the manual on Soviet tradecraft. In 60 seconds, he will be in handcuffs. What does a man who spent 22 years betraying his country say when the handcuffs snap shut? And how does the FBI's own expert on catching spies evade detection for 2 decades, while teaching agents how to spot the mole he himself was? On January 12, 1976, Robert Philip Hansen swore an oath to enforce the law and protect the nation as a newly minted FBI special agent. Instead, he became the most damaging spy in Bureau history. Hansen was born in Chicago in 1944. He was a devout Catholic, attended daily Mass at St. Catherine of Siena in Great Falls, a stone building that smelled of incense and old wood before dawn. He brought his wife Bonnie into the church, raised 6 children in it. His faith was not a performance. It was a structure, a compartment. The same man who knelt at the altar on Sunday knelt at a park bridge on Tuesday with a garbage bag of classified documents for the KGB. He did not see a contradiction. He saw 2 lives that required different rules. He was not a hypocrite. He was not a performer. He was a man who believed sincerity in one room excused betrayal in another. In 1979, 3 years into his career, Hansen was assigned to Soviet Counterintelligence in New York, the unit tasked with catching spies. Within months, he made his first approach to the GRU through Amtorg, a Soviet trade front. His inaugural act of betrayal was catastrophic. He exposed the identity of General Dmitry Polyakov, the CIA's most valuable source inside Soviet military intelligence. Polyakov was arrested by the Soviets in 1986 and executed by firing squad on March 15, 1988. Hansen was paid approximately $20,000 for the information that killed him. In 1981, Bonnie Hansen walked into the basement of their home in Scarsdale, New York, and found her husband handling stacks of cash and writing a letter to the Soviets. He claimed he was feeding them false information, a cover story she wanted to believe. She insisted he confess to an Opus Dei priest. The priest, Father Robert Bucciarelli, heard the confession. He told Hansen to donate the spy money to charity rather than turn himself in. Hansen promised his wife he would stop. He didn't. The FBI would file this under Spouse Reports Suspicious Activity. The lead was never pursued. The case was never opened. A man whose own wife caught him red-handed. A priest who heard the confession. An institution that trusted the wrong person to find the traitor, because the traitor was the one doing the looking. The FBI had 20 more years of damage ahead. What Hansen did next would get people killed. In October 1985, Hansen sent an anonymous letter to the KGB from a mailbox in Alexandria, Virginia. He signed it with a new alias, Ramon Garcia. In that first letter, Hansen named 3 KGB officers secretly working for the FBI: Valery Martinov, Sergei Motorin, and Boris Yuzhin. Martynov and Motorin were recalled to Moscow and executed. The KGB now understood they had a source inside American counterintelligence. They did not know his name, his face, or his employer. By 1987, Hansen had been promoted to FBI headquarters in Washington, assigned to the Soviet Analytical Unit. In 1988, he delivered the complete mole hunt report to the KGB. Every suspicion the Bureau had, every investigative technique it planned to use. He also revealed the FBI's multi-million-dollar eavesdropping tunnel built under the Soviet embassy on Mount Alto, a tunnel so secret that its existence was compartmented at the highest levels of the U.S. government. Hansen disclosed it for $55,000. But the Bureau's own records would tell a different story. Hansen was not a brilliant spy. His tradecraft was sloppy. He deposited KGB cash into a passbook savings account 1 block from FBI headquarters. In 1990, his brother-in-law, Mark Walk, an FBI agent himself, noticed money falling from a piece of furniture in Hansen's father's home, an amount inconsistent with an agent's salary. In December of 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. But the man who needed to prove he was the smartest person in every room could not stay quiet forever. By 1993, Hansen had reconnected with Russian intelligence. In 1994, CIA officer Aldrich Ames was arrested for spying for Moscow. The intelligence community braced for the leaks to stop. They didn't. The FBI and CIA launched a joint mole hunt. While FBI resources poured into destroying Brian Kelly's career and reputation, the real mole remained at his desk inside the Bureau and searched the FBI's computer system for his own name to monitor the investigation. In 1997, convicted FBI spy Earl Pitts spent approximately 70 hours in post-plea debriefings. Hansen was never polygraphed in 25 years of service. He never filed a detailed financial disclosure. The DOJ Inspector General's investigation would later conclude that Hansen escaped detection not because he was extraordinarily clever and crafty, but because of long-standing systemic problems. The system was not outsmarted. It was indifferent. The FBI had every chance to catch Robert Hansen. A wife, a brother-in-law, a convicted spy, a security alert, an audit trail. Each warning was dismissed because believing the evidence meant admitting the unthinkable. The man in charge of catching spies was one. The mole hunt dragged on for years. Wrong suspect, ruined career, millions spent. While the real spy remained at his desk inside the Bureau, invisible, because the institution refused to look at itself. The question was no longer whether a spy was inside the building. It was whether an institution that missed every warning for 15 years could ever see what it was built not to notice. In 2000, the FBI and CIA paid $7 million to a former Russian intelligence officer for one file, the KGB's complete dossier on the agent they called B. Inside the dossier was an audio tape, a phone conversation recorded in 1986 between the spy the KGB knew as Ramon Garcia and his handler. The KGB had preserved better records of the American mole than the FBI had generated in 22 years. The Bureau now had a problem. Enough evidence to arrest Hansen, not enough to convict him of 2 decades of espionage. In late 2000, the FBI created a fake division, Information Assurance. They told Hansen he was being promoted to lead it. O'Neill was young, Catholic, unknown to Hansen. His job? Get close to a paranoid, armed man who had evaded detection for 2 decades. The break came in January 2001. He returned it to the briefcase before Hansen noticed it was gone. On the morning of February 18, 2001, 7 years to the day after Aldrich Ames made his last dead drop, Hansen drove to Foxstone Park in Vienna, Virginia. Inside the bag were classified documents. Outside, his fingerprint. 300 agents moved in. Grainy surveillance video captured the arrest. FBI vehicles converging, agents with submachine guns emerging from the tree line in winter overcast. Hansen looked at the agents handcuffing him. 4 words. What took you so long? Charged with 21 counts, facing the death penalty. On May 10, 2002, 15 consecutive life terms without parole. He stood before the court. The Webster Commission called FBI security pervasively inattentive, and the Hansen case possibly the worst intelligence disaster in U.S. history. ADX Florence, the federal supermax in Colorado. 23 hours a day in a 7 by 12-foot concrete cell. He was not caught by the institution he betrayed. Eric O'Neill, on the question Hansen took to his cell. He has never answered that question for anyone. 15 consecutive life terms without parole. The roll call begins with Boris Yuzhin, 6 years in a Soviet labor camp. Bonnie Hansen kept their home, their vehicles, a portion of his pension. A plea deal term acknowledging she had been deceived. 22 years of betrayal. 22 years in a concrete box. The symmetry is not poetic.